What's up, everybody? Ben the Realtor AZ here. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. And today, join me as I show you guys how to smoke delicious barbecue brisket on the Boss Pellet Grill that comes out so juicy, so moist, and so tender. You gotta stay tuned. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Smash up that like button, hit the subscribe button, and definitely hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I drop a new video. All right, I hope I didn't make your guys' mouth water when you saw the intro to this video. I'm going to show you guys exactly, step by step, how to make juicy, moist, tender brisket, just like the one I'm making tonight. I'm firing up my pellet grill, my Pit Boss pellet grill with hickory wood. Hickory wood pellets, one of my favorite types of wood to smoke with when I'm cooking beef, either hickory or mesquite, just depending on what type of mood I am and usually the different type of flavors I'm trying to find in the beef. All right, so I usually pack it in Lowe's buckets, Home Depot buckets, and I keep them airtight. Different flavors, like I said, mesquite, apple. I even make my own blends. I got a ton of them just sitting in my garage. So this is going to be about a 14-hour smoke. I'm going to do it overnight because it takes so long. So let's fire up that grill. All right, you guys, this is about midnight-ish, almost 1 a.m. There was a rain in the forecast, and it did rain, so I had to pull my grill under my patio cover, getting all that nasty white smoke out. All right, you see the wood is firing up in the auger, right? And the grill is ready to go. I want to get it to about 180 degrees. All right, and this is the brisket here, 12.5-pound brisket, Sam's Club. It's choice brisket, and Angus beef is what it is. And you'll find bigger ones as well, 14-pounders, 14.5-pounders and up, as well as Sam's Club or Costco. You can go find you a brisket, and you see all that fat on the bottom of the brisket. I am going to trim that down because, of course, with that much fat, the smoke is not going to really get into the meat. So you don't want all that fat sitting there on the bottom of your grill there, and it's not going to render. You want that fat to turn like a yellowish color when you're smoking brisket. Now this part, you got to know the difference with the brisket, right? You have your flat and you have your point. Right here is the point. This is where you're gonna find two different muscles. It's almost like the shoulder-ish chest portion of the cow, and it's juicy. This is the part that you're gonna separate from the point, right? Look at all that marbling. It's going against the grain, as you can see there. And what I'm gonna do there is attack that fat, that nice big chunk of fat there. I'm gonna trim that down. You want to make sure you trim your brisket really good. This is a very important part of prepping your brisket for smoke. Like I said, it's going to be a 14-hour smoke. I'm going to smoke it for the first 6 to 7 hours overnight, and I want to do it low and slow. So I'm going to keep it at about 180 degrees, and I'm going to go to sleep. I have an app on my phone as well that notifies me once I probe the meat, and I can find the temperature. So I want it to smoke. I want the smoker to be at about 180 degrees. I want a lot of smoke to build up from that hickory wood, and I also want an internal temp of about 50-ish to 150-ish to 160 degrees before I take it out and wrap it in butcher paper. All right, so I'm working on the point there, getting that fat, and some of the meat that I don't want. Like you're gonna have two different muscles up there on the point. Just getting the fat. I thought I cut myself. No, I didn't. You got to be real careful because it is slippery, and you can really cut yourself when you're chopping up this brisket here. So all right, I'm gonna go into the point. This is what I like to do. I like to take some of the unnecessary portions of the meat. I like to have that pullover portion of the point to get that moist brisket, because there's a lot of fat in there, right? And look at all that. That's what I trimmed it down to. And I'm not going to make no beef tallow out of it. I might try it down the line, but a lot of people like to use that and make beef tallow. All right, so some of the seasoning I usually hit it with the Killer Hogs barbecue rub. I love that rub. It's very flavorful, gives me good crust. And I always use yellow mustard to hold the rub and the seasoning. This is my own concoction of just salt and pepper, just kosher salt. Okay, remember, kosher salt. I always use kosher salt and a little bit of pepper. That's it, right? Nothing else. Okay, and of course you need butcher paper to wrap it with after about 7 hours of sitting on the smoker. Okay, so after I trimmed it up, as you can see, there's the flat portion. As you can see, it's flat with all the marbling, and you can see the meat going against the grain there. And then where the fat portion is, that is the point where it goes all the way up, and I got all up under it because I want that fat there to get into the meat, all those juices. So I use mustard, yellow mustard. A lot of people, I'm not sure, they don't like it. It does not taste like mustard. Okay, so that mustard is just going to hold this rub. It's gonna let the seasoning, it's gonna keep the seasoning on the meat, right? And it's gonna absorb a lot better when it's in the smoker. Okay, so that's usually my style. I like to do this with ribs as well. It gives it a lot of flavor when it's holding in the rub. So I took it a little easy. I didn't want to go too much on the rub. I kind of wanted to just enjoy the meat and the juices and the flavor. I didn't want to do, I don't want to overkill. So you got to be careful because you don't want it to come out too salty or, it will kill your brisket. Trust me. Okay, so I took off a lot of the fat. I didn't want too much fat, right? I wanted to make sure that brisket, that smoke was gonna hit the brisket in a good way. Okay, so I hit it with the rub. After I put the yellow mustard in, I get right up under the point and my flap right there going inside. And I'm gonna hit it with my concoction there, my salt and pepper, rub it up real good. And I am going to throw this in the grill and leave it overnight. Alright, as you guys can see, I've got the brisket on the grill. That's the flat there, and that's the point. I got it more towards the hotter side of the grill. You got to get to know your grill. Probed it. Like I said, I'm looking for 150 to 160 degree temp. Internal temp, 150 to 160 with that probe. I have the app on my phone that I'll keep close to me while I go to sleep. It did start raining. Okay, so I kept it at 180 degrees. I want it to go slow for 7 hours. It's going to be a nice slow cook. I'm telling you, you do it nice and slow, no rush, you get a good smoke ring and you get a lot of flavor. I could not find my sprayer, guys. I had no clue where it was. My wife was asleep, so I couldn't wake her up. It was like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning actually. I woke up. That's apple cider vinegar and water. Okay, I don't want it to dry out too much. So I'm hitting it with apple cider vinegar and water, about a 50-50 split. Okay, and this helps keep the meat juicy, keep it tender. Okay, I only like to hit it one time on the first smoke, in the first 7 hours. Okay, so there I got it up to about 190 degrees with the 200 degree goal. It was about 130 so degrees. And then once the sun came up, right, I went right back to the backyard and I saw that it was just about ready to take out. We were getting close. Yeah, as you see there, 158, 160 on the probe, almost 200 degrees inside the smoker. As you can see, it's drying just a little bit. It's starting to get tender, and I'm ready to take this and wrap it with some butcher paper. Okay, so it's perfect right there. That's exactly what I want to see, a little crust. I probably could have put a little more rub to give it a little bit thicker crust, but this is just right. If you want to do it perfectly, you see the fat is rendering there. It's turning yellowish. You want that yellowish color on your fat. You got some of the juices from the apple cider vinegar and the water, and this is juicy. Trust me, if you could only smell the smell in my kitchen right now from this brisket, it smells absolutely delicious. I wanted more of the meat flavor, so I stayed light on the seasoning. Okay, look at that yellow fat. That's exactly what you want on the brisket. So I'm getting ready to wrap it. This is butcher paper. We're gonna wrap it for another 7 hours. Okay, 7 complete hours. And what I know some people use beef tallow. I'm gonna actually wrap it in butter, put about 4 and 4 on top and under the brisket, and kind of let it seep into the meat and give it those juices and keep it tender and keep it moist. So a lot of people have different ways, to each his own. I usually use butter and sometimes beef tallow. I'm gonna probably do another one with the tallow, but I'm gonna go ahead and I use two sides. I'm gonna wrap this thing, make sure that none of the juices get out. Kind of like when you do ribs and you throw it back in there, but this is gonna be for a lot longer, right? The butcher paper is perfect. It keeps all that flavor and all those juices in there in the brisket. Okay, so I'm gonna actually turn up the temperature a little bit and smoke it for the next 7 hours. So we're now morning time, the sun is up and it's still raining. Of course, had to rain on New Year's Eve, right before New Year's. But yeah, I'm gonna throw this bad boy back on the grill. I've got my probe in there right in the center, and I want to put it at about 225 degrees smoke. That's like a good temperature, especially on a pellet grill. You don't want to burn your meat, especially on a pellet grill, because it's not as elongated type of a grill where the smoke is just flowing all through the grill. With it being a little smaller, you're not getting as much smoke as you would like with the Franklin's, like how Franklin does with those big gallon propane and wood smokers. So as you can see here, yep, 246. I pushed it up. I went from 225 to 246, and what I wanted to do was take it out at about 205 degrees temp, no more than 210 on the probe. Okay, yep, it started raining. All right, so I'm checking on it. I'm getting close to taking this bad boy out. As you can see, it's at 202 degrees. This is about 1 p.m. now after checking on this, as you can see. Right, I'm gonna poke holes to see how tender it is. Man, it was like butter. It's just going right through. It's just slipping right through. I didn't know if I was going through the paper or anything. It was that tender. Okay, so now what I do is I take my cooler, and you gotta let the brisket rest. 2 hours, I let it rest. I don't think I was done with this cook till about 4 p.m. New Year's Eve. Okay, so 4 p.m. I went ahead and let it rest for 2 hours before I pulled out the knife and cut this brisket. Okay, you can get these, if you guys see these, on Amazon as well. They're about 30 bucks if you need them. Okay, so like I said, I wanted a 205 internal temp, right? Look at that butcher paper, how soaked it is. Okay, look at all those juices. Okay, for 7 hours wrapped in the butcher paper. Okay, it's just falling off. And the meat, if you could only smell it, I mean, the juices in this butcher paper wrap was absolutely amazing. Look at that. Okay, not burnt. If I would have put a lot more rub, you would have got a lot more of a darker color as well. Now look at that, just juicy. It's so tender. When I slice and dice it, you're gonna see the meat is just falling apart, that it's so tender. If I pick it up and wiggle it around, it'll probably rip in half. Okay, so this is actually, to me, a perfect brisket, right? You've got the point there, just nice, fat and juicy. I took off a lot of fat so we can enjoy that meat, but I left the fat in the middle so that those juices, when the meat was resting. Some specialists and competition guys who are in barbecue, they let it rest for a lot longer, sometimes overnight, sometimes for 8 hours, which I would recommend as well. But I would say usually if you want to go ahead and feed like your family, or you have people coming over, I would say make sure you time it It's very time consuming. I would say let it rest for about 3 hours. 2 to 3 hours is fine, because you gotta let the meat rest. You gotta let all those juices, the meat, absorb all those juices, all that fat. As you can see, the fat is perfect. It's yellowish color, and the fat rendered. All the smoke really hit this brisket. Okay, guys, now I'm gonna chop this down, and you guys just gotta see the smoke ring on this brisket. Okay, I'm taking off the edges, the ends, and look at that pink smoke ring. It's juicy, it's tender, it just pulls apart. Okay, and that's how you want brisket, right? Look how juicy that is. That's a burn in, right? You see that yellow fat right there? Exactly how you want it. And that pink smoke ring, that shows you that the smoke got into the meat. That hickory smoke from the wood, from the hickory pellet wood, the smoke from that is all in the meat right there. And that pink ring is the evidence, okay? And that's the beauty about smoking meat. Okay, you can see the pink smoke ring right there. Okay, look at it, it's just falling apart. Okay, that crust right there is even coming apart as well. The butter made it a little more moist, a little more juicy, and that crust is from the rub, and it's absolutely delicious. You can see the pink smoke ring right on top of it as well. It's just slicing like butter. It's so tender. Okay, guys, so I'm slicing up pretty much what is known as the flat. Okay, that's the flat part, which is a lot more lean on the brisket. Okay, you're gonna get your lean part of the beef here, which is your flat, the flat part of the brisket. Okay, now this is cell phone footage, so you guys can see it in a different camera view. Look at that smoke ring. Okay, it's going all the way around. That's how good this smoker is. Okay, and right there is the money shot. Okay, I'm gonna slice right down the middle of the point. Okay, that's the two muscles that you see right there. There's two different muscles. This is gonna be the most moist part of the brisket. It's gonna have the most fat, right, that was rendered. Okay, you got that intermuscular fat. It's a lot more juicier, and when you push down on it, right, it's the money shot. All the juice just comes dripping down, right? That's from letting the meat rest, letting it get a nice low smoke, and it is delicious. It's tender. It's some of the best meat you can have when it comes to barbecue. Look at that smoke ring just around the point, right? Absolutely delicious, guys. Gotta try it if you love barbecuing and cooking for your family. This right here we ate for about 2-3 days. It was that good. Okay, so, and as you can see, the crust on the outside, right on the point, you see those two muscles, that line in the middle, that's the two muscles right there. And I dug in there and cut out a lot of fat when I showed you guys before I seasoned it and threw it on the smoker. All right, so man, the smoke ring is a beauty. Number one, that's the lean part of the brisket. Absolutely delicious. It just falls apart. Look at that. Tender. You want it nice, juicy, and tender. Just like that. My kids usually like the lean part. I'm gonna fill it up in the tray. So we have it for New Year's Eve and New Year's, right? And then I'm gonna get the slicing and dicing on the moist point part of the brisket. You see that yellow fat right at the end, right there, and right on both sides. That's what you want. Okay, now this stuff was falling right apart. Look at that. It's extra tender, extra juicy, and extra moist. Okay, and this is actually my favorite part of the brisket right here. Okay, this is my favorite part of the brisket. I'm gonna load up my plate with a moist brisket for New Year's, for our New Year's Eve dinner, our family dinner. So look at that, like butter, okay? It can barely stay together. It's that tender and that juicy. All right, you guys. Now what I'm doing here is chopping up a lot of small pieces for my kids. They like it. Their meat sliced and diced, almost like pulled pork, because my kids love pulled pork. And I have to slice and dice the meat for them because they're very small. They still got their baby teeth. So, but yeah, they're little lions when it comes to meat. So, I mean, they destroy, they tear it up. So I have to dice, leave some for my kids, make sure I got enough of some small chunks for them. All right, me and my wife are gonna go ahead and get at that moist brisket right there. All right, I'm just getting it all in the tray, getting it ready, gonna preserve it for the next few days. It's a lot of meat. I said 12.5 pounds is enough. It's only 4 of us. And I'm gonna continue chopping this down. You guys, now you see this part of the brisket, you see that yellow fat, that's exactly how you want it. Okay, that's how you want to trim off as much as possible, because you want that fat to render, you want that fat to be juicy, and you want it to taste delicious. Okay, it was absolutely delicious brisket. right? You want all different types of cuts. Okay, you've got lean, you've got moist, juicy and tender from the flat and from the point. Like I said, this is definitely a good method if you want to cook it within about 12 to 14 hours. But remember, the key to brisket is letting the meat rest. Don't just start carving it out. Some people do, it just depends on timing because it can be time consuming. But all right, this is a cell phone shot as well. Just wanted you to see a different camera view and see how the meat looks. Absolutely delicious, absolutely juicy, absolutely flavorful. Okay, I love brisket. Is one of my favorite parts of the cow, right? If it's not a ribeye steak, bone in, or a tomahawk, I definitely love brisket. Okay, it's delicious. It's not that hard to cook. It's just time consuming, and you really got to pay attention to the temperature. If you're not paying attention to the temperature, you're gonna set this brisket on fire. You're gonna burn it. Now, here's the finished product, right? That's my plate. That's what I'm gonna eat for New Year's Eve, and I'm gonna have some moist, juicy brisket, some baked beans, potato salad, some rolls of bread, and I've got my Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce to dip it in. Absolutely delicious, guys. I want to say thank you guys for watching this video. Definitely this was a long one, but I wanted to give you guys a thorough look into how to actually smoke brisket, right? The keys are the type of wood you're gonna burn. I don't know if you use charcoal, I don't know if you use wood, I don't know if you use pellet wood. Okay, this is specifically pellet wood, and I love pellet wood. It's definitely over the years now has become my favorite way to smoke meat is with pellet wood. It's a lot more convenient and it lasts a lot longer. But I did fill up, I think overnight, I went about halfway on my pellets and filled up the rest in the morning as well. So definitely on the Pit Boss pellet grill, this came out absolutely delicious. Now I'm going to switch it to the cell phone view so you can get a different camera view from it, and you can see that yellowish fat right there, which is absolutely mind-blowing on the brisket. Okay, a little bit of potato salad, right? You want to keep it like Texas, Southwestern, Arizona style barbecue right there. Got a little bit of corn, a little bit of baked beans, not doing too much. And there you have it there, folks. Definitely watch a lot of my videos on my channel, Arizona Backyard Grilling. I have tons of videos coming on this grill showing you guys how I grill Arizona backyard barbecue style. Lots of different flavors from all over the country. Lots of different cooks that I love to follow and get their recipes as well, and I mix in a little bit of what I do. So happy new year to all of you guys. Thank you for subscribing and tuning into my channel over the year now. And this is something my wife put together as well for New Year's, as we kick back, brought into the new year, saying goodbye to 2021, a glass of wine and some delicious brisket for the whole family to enjoy for New Year's weekend. All right, you guys, I'm out. I'll see you guys on the next one.